Hey everybody, how you doing? Ricky Schoon over here with 8Z Real Estate, and you are tuned in to Denver's monthly real estate podcast, the Denver Homes Market Report. So I thank you for tuning in. Thanks for checking it out today. I'm actually in my van today. My husband and I, it's kind of a bucket list item for us. We've always wanted to purchase one of these camper van conversions. It's a Dodge Ram 1500 or whatever. And we've always kind of wanted to buy one of these converted vans and do some camping. My family's had a camping membership. My grandmother's started it way back in the 70s. My aunt and uncle took it over in the 80s. And then they just recently said, hey, Ricky, we're not traveling. It's like we were, and we're not camping like we were. So they asked us if we wanted to take over this membership. So my husband and I obliged and went ahead, and it's a monthly or an annual fee that you got to pay. So not everybody in the family was jumping at to do it. And it was one of those things that Victor and I wanted to do over the years. And we're like, hey, this might be the time to do it. So that pushed us to get the membership last year. And now we're like, well, we have the membership and we have a Jeep and a tent, but it's not the same as having like a self-contained, camper. So anyway, it's kind of a bucket list for us to get in the camper. But that's not really what I brought you all onto the podcast for. But I just wanted to explain my surroundings, and I'm sitting here with a sink and everything else that goes with the camper, and I've got the window blocked off here so I don't have so much sun coming in behind me. But anyway, let's talk about first things I want to talk about today is pricing, because that's like one of the biggest things that come up. A lot of potential sellers will come to me, or we'll be in a conversation at a social gathering. They'll be like, what do you think my home would sell for? What do you think it would sell for? What's how much could I get for it? And it's always an interesting question. And I have kind of a long answer, so I don't have the 1 minute elevator pitch, elevator ride pitch to tell you what your house is worth. But I can summarize it with, it's an imperfect system that we use, just like the appraisers. They use an imperfect system, and so do we. I don't know if there's a better system out there, but basically we use what's called comparables. I mean, that's really the best that we have to use. And the reason I say that it's imperfect is because with a comparable, you're looking at sales that have already happened in some cases. So those homes are already sold, they're already off the market, the buyers are already in the home, the sellers have already moved on to wherever they were going, but that's a comparable with a sold. And then we have some that are under contract. Those are imperfect because you don't know what they went under contract for. They might have been asking $600,000, but they may have accepted an offer at $550,000. They may have gotten multiple bids and went up to $650,000. Who knows? But you can read the tea leaves a little bit. You can see how long they've been on the market, if they've had any, if they were on the market for a long time, did they have any price reductions? How long was the price reduction before that offer finally came in and went under contract? How long ago was that price reduction? If it was only on the market for 3 or 4 days, maybe you could surmise that it went above asking price. But you just never know because it's pending, and you don't get the real numbers until it actually goes through and closes. Then it becomes public record. You know what it closed for, but those are pending. So we have solds, we have pending, and then we can look at the ones that are in the market that are available for sale that might be in your area. And sometimes you get lucky, and sometimes there'll be a comparable that's really, really close to your house, and you can use that as a benchmark. And then you can start sort of looking at the finishes and what has been remodeled on the home you're getting ready to sell versus the home that's already on the market. What are they asking for the price? How long have they been on the market? Have they had any price reductions? Things like that. So that is the system we use. So what I like to tell my potential sellers is, after looking at the comps, after looking at what has sold, what's pending, and sort of the nuances on those pendings, and then what's available for sale in your market that might compare to your home, I can come up with what I believe a reasonably educated buyer would pay for your home. So that is really the best I can come down to. If there's anyone out there that's telling you, hey, I can get your home sold for this number, and it's a higher number. I'm not talking $5 or $10. I'm talking an actual number. We're either lying or we're guessing, because we don't know that next buyer. Maybe the buyer comes in and maybe you're next to a school, you're very close to a school that their child is going to be going to, or maybe you're close to a place of worship, and that's where they want to be there for that. There may be other factors that a particular buyer comes along that wasn't in the market 3 months ago or 2 months ago when that other comp sold. So there are those factors, or perhaps a buyer doesn't come along that really resonates with your property for whatever reason, even though the one sold, not that long ago, for maybe a higher price or the same price. And you're like, well, why is mine not going to sell for that price? Well, that buyer already purchased their home, and now another buyer's not in the market that's looking for the same. So we can really only use what a reasonably educated buyer would pay for your home based off of looking at the comparables. Okay, so that's what we want to talk a little bit about pricing. Then the next thing I want to talk to you about is getting your realtor, getting your realtor involved early in the process. Whether you're buying or you're selling, realtors don't get paid by the hour. So if you call us and we start working with you, we're working with you for 6 months, 8 months, a year before you actually transact, whether that's a purchase or a sale, we don't get paid until we get you to the closing table. Until you're satisfied with the terms of the contract, and we get you to the closing table, and you either pass off the keys and get the money, or you pass off the money and get the keys, depending on if you're a buyer or seller. That's when the realtor gets paid. So it behooves you as a consumer to get us involved early. And it's so counterintuitive, right? It sounds so weird. Like, why am I going to call Ricky and have Ricky start working with me? It's now September, let's say 6 months ago, 5 months ago. Why am I going to call Ricky in 6 months ago when I don't think I'm going to sell my house until 2025? Well, let me tell you why. I have clients who I'd worked with in the past. I'd helped them sell a home. I'd actually helped them purchase this home that we're getting ready that is under contract now. But they called me in September. And I went out to their house. We did a walkthrough, and I gave them some pointers. We walked around the house. I was okay. Maybe we want to fix this. Maybe we want to fix that. Maybe put some paint over there. Maybe clear out this room here. Clear out that room there. Gave them a little bit of pointers, but it was a lot to take in. Right in that September, the house had a lot of personal items in it, and they already knew, a lot of it had to go. But they did bring me out in September. Then I went back out there, I want to say around Thanksgiving. So I went back out there in Thanksgiving. We did another walkthrough. A lot of things were gone. A lot of things had been moved out. So we were able to kind of peel back the layers of the onion and kind of really get back, get into the house. So that was a really helpful visit. And then I circled back with them again in, I want to say December. So I was back there in December, took a look at the house, and they had rented a storage shed. One of the wives, their mom had come up from Texas and helped them out and got some stuff out of the house. And I'm sure she took some stuff back to Texas because they're going to be relocating to Texas to be closer to family. And so all that happened. Then I came back in January, and my goodness, it was almost done. It was amazing. I walked in and said, "Wow, you guys should be so proud of yourself. It's almost ready here." They'd all actually uncleared it out a little bit too much in some areas. So somehow some rooms still had too many items in it. Other rooms were completely empty. So then about a week or so before we actually went live in the market, I went ahead and took a picture of the outside. And we scheduled our photo shoot, and we started a coming soon period. So we put it in the MLS as coming soon on a Friday morning, and that gives you 7 days. So during that 7 days, we went over there. I went over with a gentleman, and we went over there and kind of cleaned up a little bit. We balanced out the rooms a little, moved some furniture around. Like the dining room had nothing in it at all. So we took another dining room table I had, like a smaller nook area. We took that dining room table and put it in the dining room area and put some chairs around it. And then there was a credenza in the other room. So we took that rustic table and we brought that over there and we put that into the dining room. So we kind of balanced out the rooms, right? And we made each room not feel too empty, but also not too full by just kind of moving the furniture around. And then there were some boxes and some other things to move out and put into storage or put into the garage and things of that nature. So we did all that, and then we had our photo shoot on Monday or Tuesday. And then we got our photos back from editing, put those into the system, and we went live on Friday morning. Last Friday morning, we went live. And I almost immediately started getting scheduled appointments. And we didn't have any showings until I launched the open house, which was on Saturday at 11 a.m. And on that Saturday, we had about 20, 30 people come to the open house. I think 18 of them were scheduled appointments that had gone through the MLS. Those are the type of appointments you want, because typically, if they are scheduled through the MLS, that is a buyer that's working with a realtor. The realtor is not going to be out there wasting their time, typically showing people properties if they're not pre-approved or have some sort of proof of funds if they're paying cash. So those are the type of showings you really want, because they're not tire kickers. They are committed. They're working with the realtor. They're out there looking at homes and looking to buy. Now, whether your home is the one they want to purchase or not, that's a different story. But all we can do is merchandise the home, make sure that the curb appeal looks fantastic, make sure you walk in the home, everything is balanced. Real estate photography, so important. All my listings, I pay for photography. And the reason I do that is because I don't want any compromise. I don't want any compromise when it comes to marketing. The pictures are so important. You're on Zillow and you're a potential buyer and you're flipping through Zillow and you see the first 2 or 3 pictures. If that house doesn't appeal to you, if those pictures don't pop, you're just going to move on to the next house. And that house and that seller didn't even get a fair shake because their photography was not great. So I love to make sure that we have great photography. And Christopher Weber over there at Orchestrated Light is fantastic. His wife Susanna is amazing. So I work with that team and I pay for it. We do drone flights if it warrants it. Like this particular home was next to Quincy Reservoir, so we did a drone flight to get a picture of the reservoir. And so we do that. We can do Matterport tours. I'm not doing as many Matterport tours these days because my photographer, they do a floor plan where they walk around with an app and they do a really, really cool floor plan. They give you all the different levels of the home. And I almost like that better than the Matterport. The Matterport is kind of clunky. You're trying to move around. You're walking into walls and everything else. So I've kind of gotten away from that a little bit because the photography is just so amazing. And you match that up with the floor plans and it's just great. I used Orchestrated Light. We got the photos done. We got it into the system, had the open house, amazing open house. So many people, 20, 30 people. And then by Sunday, we had multiple offers over asking. And that's going to segue into my next thing here. I know I'm running out of time, but let's quickly talk about offers. So we got these multiple offers. One of them was $20,000 above the asking price. Another one was, a good offer, a great offer. And we were able to come to terms with one of them. But what I want to point out is the offer with the highest price wasn't the offer that my clients ultimately chose. They thought they were, right? We got on the phone, they were all excited. They didn't even want to talk about the other offer that was lower than asking. And I was like, well, that's the better offer. And they're like, well, how? How can that be? We have an offer that's $20,000 above our asking price. How can the offer that's $15,000 below asking price be the better offer? And so we went through them. And by the time I got done explaining the pros and cons, which is really what you're hiring a realtor for, is to be able to look at an offer from a professional standpoint and be able to look at all the details. There's about 30 aspects of an offer that have nothing to do with the price that may make that offer more attractive. And I can name off a bunch of things. One of it might be the closing date. Maybe one has a more flexible closing date than the other one. It could be the seller's concessions. Maybe the buyer is looking for the seller to provide some funds at closing, maybe to buy down their rate or that kind of thing. Maybe the other offer, maybe they had to have another house to sell. So one of their contingencies were, hey, we have a house on the market, we're under contract, but we need for that to sell in order for us to be able to buy your home. That's a lot of dominoes that need to come into play. And especially since that particular offer, they had not even been through their home inspections yet. So I never, when I'm working with a buyer, even if I'm selling their other home, until we've got their home through inspections, I'm not going out and writing offers. We might go out and look at homes, but we're not writing any offers until they've already got their house on the market, or got it under contract, and they are through home inspections, and we're just waiting for appraisal to come back and final loan approval. At that point, we can go out and write offers. But this offer came in a little early, and they were a little ill prepared in that standpoint. It could be an appraisal gap. If you offer $20,000 above what my client's looking for, that $20,000 means nothing if there's a loan involved, and an appraiser comes in and says, well, you're offering $595, but this home is only worth $575. Well, guess what? It's going to revert back. I mean, you can negotiate with the buyer somewhat, but if they were already trying to get $20,000 above asking, they were already asking for a $10,000 concession, the chances of them having the money to come in to pay part of the appraisal gap, probably not going to happen. So appraisal gap can be really important. My clients are, like I mentioned earlier, they are relocating to Texas. So they need a post-occupancy. They need to be able to close on the house, get that money, and then once they have their money, then they can, focus on moving down to Texas. So they wanted about 30 days post-occupancy of staying in the house. Now, it wasn't free. They were going to pay for it, but they wanted to be able to stay in the house after the close so that they could get their affairs in order, have the money to do that, and get moved out of the house, get the house cleaned and everything else for the new buyers. So there's all these different aspects, right, that come into play where the highest offer may not be the best offer. So you're hiring a realtor not to open the doors, not to put the for sale sign out front. Yeah, sure, all those things are important, but you're really paying us to know where we're out in the market. Know what buyers are able to ask for and get from a seller. Know what sellers are maybe able to provide to a buyer. If you ask the buyer for a new roof or ask the seller for a new roof, maybe in some markets, the seller's gonna be like, no, I've got 12 other offers. If you don't want it because of the roof, I'm gonna go to the other 12 people and say, hey, I'm selling at this price, it needs a roof, who wants it? And out of those 12 offers, they're probably gonna have someone's gonna be like, you know what, for 12 grand, we're just gonna put it on the roof anyways, we want the house. So anyway, the highest offer may not be the best offer, and you're really hiring a realtor to help guide you on where the market is and where you are at that moment. Sometimes You might be playing offense. Sometimes you might be playing defense. Sometimes you're on the 1 yard line and you've got just 1 yard to go before you hit that touchdown. Or you might be on the 1 yard line, 99 yards from the field goal. So anyway, you're hiring a realtor to know where you're at in the market at any given time, because that is dynamic. It's always changing. And so what one market might be, you'll hear this a lot, right? You're buying a home and you'll be talking to an uncle or an aunt or something, and they'll be like, oh, when I bought my house, I never had to pay for that. The sellers paid for that. Well, they bought their home, a year ago or 2 years ago or whatever it was. It wasn't in your market. It wasn't what's going on, and it wasn't your particular deal. And so you'll hear that a lot. But you're paying the realtor to really know where you're at on the playing field, where the market is, what buyers are getting away with, what sellers are getting away with, that type of thing. That's really what you're hiring us for. Sure, we know some market knowledge and we know the days on market and that kind of stuff. We can all talk about that. But really, you're paying us to know that where we're at in the market at any given point, so that you can just jump in and get, make sure that you're getting a fair shake. You want to make sure that you're not paying too much. Or if you're selling, you want to make sure you're getting, market value. And I'll tell you, on market value, the buyers out there have a lot of tools at their disposal these days. They can go online and look at the comps themselves and get pretty darn close to what they should be paying for your house. So you're not going to pull the wool over anyone's eyes being a seller and be like, well, I'm going to ask for, $600,000 when your home's worth $550. If your home's worth $550, put it on the market at $550. The comps are going to tell you what to do. And if you don't do that, the market will punish you. They will let you linger on the market for 20, 30, 40 days, and you're going to do a price reduction, and they'll be like, you know what? They're going to mentally check out of that house anyway. So even with the price reduction, they're not going to be all that excited. 2 or 3 more weeks go by, you do another price reduction for $10,000. Well, if $10,000 was going to do it, they would have written the offer for $10,000 less. You're really at that point. Now you have to make big reductions, right? Now you have to make $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 reductions to get someone's attention. So anyway, it's all about pricing, all about merchandising your home right now. Buyers have a lot of options out there. There's 4 to 5 months of inventory, not 4 to 5 weeks of inventory. So they got a lot more inventory. Sellers, once you get that buyer, it might have taken you 60 days on average to get that buyer. And then you go through your home inspection and there's some things that the buyer is not really comfortable with. You're probably going to get those done for them, because you don't want to lose that buyer and wait another, 60 days or maybe longer, or have to do price reductions to get another buyer. So it's a good market for buyers right now. You're kind of at the helm, even as we're rolling into this spring market. Just know, if you're a seller, get your house on the market early. Get your realtor involved early. You don't pay us by the hour. We'd only get paid when we get you to the closing table. So get us involved early. We can give you a lot of advice on what's going on in the market and what buyers are looking for, and really help you get your house ready faster and probably save you some money. I have a lot of contractors in my sphere that I can help you out with, whether you need plumbing or HVAC or sewer line or painting or house cleaning, whatever it is you need. I could probably get all that done for you in a weekend, instead of you trying to do it when you get off work after working 10, 12 hours a day, or trying to do it on your weekend when you got Super Bowl Sunday coming up, all that sort of stuff. So anyway, I'm going to wrap up today. I've gone almost 19 minutes, so I want to thank you for tuning in. This is Ricky Schoonover with 8Z Real Estate, and you've been listening to the Denver Homes Market Report, Denver's monthly real estate podcast. If you can do me a favor, if you're on my YouTube channel, thank you very much for being on YouTube, by the way, but go right here and click that subscribe button. It's like right there, I think. Hit that subscribe button. I'd love to have you subscribe. If you have any or about real estate, or if you're a buyer, you're thinking about the spring market, if you're a seller, you're thinking about the spring market, get me involved early. My number here, 720-688-5110. You can also go to my website, denverhomesmarket.com. All right. Well, thanks for hanging out with me today in the van. I really appreciate it. And I kind of like the acoustics in here. I love it. So thanks for joining me, and I'll talk to you next month. Hey everybody, how you doing? This is Ricky Schoonover with the 8Z Real Estate, and you're tuned into the Denver Homes Market Report. Today is our 5th season, 10th episode. I know it's January, I know it's the first week of January, and you're probably thinking, wait a minute, why are we season 5 and 10th episode? And the reason that is, if you guys have a little history, or if you've been listening to the show for a while, I started this back in the pandemic of April of 2020. We were locked down. I'd been wanting to do a podcast for a long time, and there weren't a lot of podcasts out there, like real estate podcasts for Denver. There's a few of them out there for like investments, but not for like normal home buyers and home sellers who just want to know what's going on in the market.
So that's kind of where I came in and was like, you know what, I would like to do a podcast. We used to do it weekly, but then as social norms kind of came back and we started going back out to happy hours and having a social life again, doing a podcast every week got to be a little difficult. So we switched it up about a year or so ago, and now we've been doing them monthly. So they come out on the first Thursday of each month. So hence where we are here today. So tomorrow will be First Friday. So I'm here at the Arts District. If you can't tell, I'm over here at 858, the gallery here for the emerging artists. So if you're out and about on Friday, come on down to the Arts District on Santa Fe. All right, so we're going to get into the podcast here. Please, if you're on my YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. It's either right there or right there. I can't remember. But anyways, hit that subscribe button if you're on YouTube. And let's get into today's show. Let's first talk about the credit cards, right? We're all through the holidays. You go to Macy's, you're there buying some stuff, you got guests coming in, so you're buying new bedding, you're buying pans, whatever it is. You get to the counter, and they're like, oh, hey, you can open up a new Macy's card here, fill out some information. So you give them some basic information, and lo and behold, you get approved for a card, right there on the spot. But then about 25 days from now, you get those credit card bills, and you're like, ugh, God, how much did I spend for the holidays? So a little bit of holiday blues there. We also have a lot of uncertainty in the market, right? We have a new president coming in. We got all these credit card bills coming in. About a couple months now, we're going to have our taxes going on, whether you're paying property taxes or getting income taxes back or whatever it is. So there's a lot of things going on. What that does, though, is it does create some opportunities. So if you're a buyer right now, you're thinking, is it a good time to buy? Interest rates are elevated, right? We all know that they're sticking up there about 7%. You can buy them down to about 6.5 right now, but even though the Feds cut the rates in December, the yield spread on the 10-year Treasury bond, if you listen to this podcast, you already know that the 30-year interest rates for the mortgages are more tied to a 10-year Treasury bond, and that yield spread has gone up. It was like around 3.7, now it's like 4.7, so that's a full interest rate. So even though the Feds cut, 25 basis points or whatever, the rates went up about 0.75%. You're like, what the heck happened? But that's how that happens, right? It's the yield on those bond markets. So we're being a little stubborn with the interest rates, but if you think back to when we were in those days of 3% or 4% interest rates, what was going on? There was a line out the door for the open houses, right? You came to the house, you walked around the house real quick, and then you ran back with your realtor to go write that offer, and then you're writing that offer, you're writing it for $100,000 over asking, you're waiving your rights to inspection or saying you're going to have an inspection, but you won't ask for any repairs. Maybe the sellers are like, hey, we want you to close, we want our money, but then we want to live in this house for free for the next 30, 60 days, whatever. Plenty of people were doing that. So now the interest rates are elevated a little bit. Things can slow down a little bit. Now there's inventory. Let's talk about inventory first before we talk about the interest rates. So inventory is, let's say we didn't put another house on the market. Like right now, here we are, the first week of January, we don't put another house on the market. Based on today's absorption rate, or the rate the homes are being sold, if we didn't list another house from today, it would take us 4.5 months. So January, February, March, April, we're into May before all the houses were sold, and there would be nothing available for sale. If nothing came on the market between now and May, that's that absorption rate and the inventory. So we're talking about 4 months of inventory or 4.5 months of inventory. That's what it would be. Back when the market was really crazy, we had 4 weeks of inventory. If we didn't put a house on the market, we would have been out of inventory in 4 weeks. So that just tells you how much the market has changed. And so there's some opportunities there for buyers. So the good thing for the buyers, even though the rates are higher, first of all, you can buy those rates down. You can even get the seller, a lot of times if they've been on the market for a little while, you can get the sellers to give you like thousands of dollars that you could put towards that and get your rate bought down either temporarily, or you could buy it down for the next 30 years, however you want to do it with your lender on that. So that's one of the benefits to the buyers right now with the rates being higher, that you're getting some more goodies from the sellers. Also, you can take your time. You can really look at the house. You can look at the surrounding areas. Check out the places of worship if that's something important to you. Schools if that's important to you. Maybe restaurants, bars, cafes, art galleries like where I live. Things like that. You can really do some investigating on the home itself and the surrounding areas before you put in your offer. Because the average days on market right now is above 60 days. Now, that doesn't mean every house is going to be on the market for 60 days or more. Some houses are still, if they're priced correctly and they're priced aggressively, they may get an offer right away. So I always tell my clients when they're like, well, how much time do I have? You have all the time in the world to put in that offer. until another buyer comes along and shows interest. As soon as that happens, then the game changes, right? And then you got to start moving a little quicker, get that offer in. But for right now, in general, you get about 60 days on the market where homes are, from the time that they're listed on the market to when they get an accepted offer and go to contract, it's about 60 days. So it gives you a little more time. You do not have the right offers at $100,000 over the asking price. If a seller is going to stay in the home after you've sold it, which is kind of common, they're going to pay. Usually they're going to pay you some rent to that, so they're not living there for free. So those are some of the advantages from when the interest rates were at 3% and everything was crazy, and with the interest rates now being at 6.5%, 7%, and some of the advantages for you as a buyer. And I don't think the rates are going to stay this elevated forever. We don't know when they're going to come down. We thought they were going to come down this year. I think we're going to be stuck in this 6% range for the most of 2025. So I wouldn't look for the rates to drop too terribly much this year. And so there's some opportunities for buyers right there. You know, you get more time to look at the house, make sure it's the right home for you, do your home inspection. If you find some things wrong with the home, I bet you the sellers, that they've been waiting around for 3, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, they're not going to want to let you go. They're going to want to fix that house for you so that you'll buy it and continue on with your contract. So there's some advantages to you as buyers. So let's change gears and talk about sellers a little bit. Sellers, we've had it really good, right? The sellers have had it good from probably since like 2014, 2016. Buyers have it better today than a decade ago, right? A full decade, all the way back. Buyers, they have an upper hand because right now sellers are having to wait longer for those buyers to come along. And then when you get that buyer, you don't want to lose them. So when they're like, hey, I want you to fix the furnace, or we want you to fix the roof, or we want you to fix this or that. You're going to do it as a seller if you want to sell the house, because it's just that much harder to get a buyer to come along. So if you're getting ready to sell your house, I would not wait till the spring. If you wait and think, oh, we're going to put it on the market in May, just know that 60 days is the average. So May, June, you might not be selling your home till July. And then by the time you get through that contract, which is about 30 days, you wouldn't be getting paid from your sale until the end of August. So you really want to start thinking about that a little bit earlier this year, a little bit thinking ahead a little bit and planning ahead. And that's especially with listing your property. Curb appeal is going to be really important. Make sure the flowers, I know right now it's winter, right? It's tough. But get some flowers that are hardy and get those out there in front of the house. Fresh paint always does a really nice thing for homes. You know, give it a little fresh feel, fresh interior paint. Make sure you have minimalist amount of furniture. If you can get everything out of personal belongings and professionally stage it, that's the best. If you're trying to get top dollar, now if you're just going to sell it off to an investor and you're going to let them, give you 70 or 40% below the market, and then let them go do all the fixing up and everything, because in this market the home does have to really look really good to get a buyer on board right now. There's just a lot of competition out there, so you have to really work hard as a seller, but there are some opportunities out there. The good thing is the buyers that are coming to the market, they're actual buyers. There's not like back when the interest rates were 3 and 4%, you just had a lot of tire kickers out there, like we're just coming out to take a look at the houses just because everybody else was doing it. Now the buyers that are out there, when they're coming to my open house, those are actual buyers. They're looking at the house because they're buying a home, certainly. So the world doesn't stop, right? We still have kids going off to college. We still have job transfers. We still have retirements. We still have divorces, maybe even more so when you have some uncertain times, more so with the divorces. Maybe the job transfer, you're moving out and you have to sell the property, or you're moving into Denver from somewhere else. Like I just had a couple of clients that moved in from out of state. So life is still going to go on regardless. We all have to have a place to live, regardless if the interest rates are 7%, 6%, 5%, 3%. I do think that we're going to be in this whole 6% range for the majority of 2025. So I would not look for that to change. I'll update my podcast and let you know if I see something different. But as of right now, forecasting into 2025, I think we're going to continue on with elevated interest rates. I think that's good for buyers in some ways, meaning that they can spend some time to get the house that they really want. And also, if there's some repairs to be made, they're probably going to be able to get the sellers to do that. On the seller side, like I said, it's a time where you're really going to have your house shine. It really has to look great. It's probably no time in history as important as now to have a professional realtor, someone with some experience, helping you out, guiding you. If you have any questions about selling your home or buying a home, give me a call, 720-688-5110. You can also go to my website, denverhomesmarket.com. And of course, tune into this podcast each month at the first Thursday of each month. I try to get it out. and that is the Denver Homes Market Report. And that podcast is everywhere. So you could go on to Apple Podcasts, you could go on to Google Podcasts, we're on Spotify, we're pretty basically everywhere. Just go on there and you'll find it. Tune in and iHeartRadio. So anywhere you have podcasts, go to my YouTube channel as well. And that's going to wrap up today's show. Thank you very much. A little bit of a shorter show being for the new year here. But we got some opportunities out there for buyers, sellers. We really got to work a little harder than we've had to do in the last decade or so, because the home has to look great. Buyers going to be a little more particular. And if you could completely move out and professionally stage the home, that's going to help you out a lot. All right. Please tune in next month. We'll see you in February. But other than that, Happy New Year, and hopefully everything goes well for you. We get those credit card bills out of the way, and let's get out there and go shopping for some home next month. All right, thank you. Hey everybody, how you doing? This is Ricky Schoonover with 8Z Real Estate. Thank you very much for tuning in. This is the Denver Homes Market Report, Denver's monthly real estate podcast. And today I am here at the 858 ADSF Emerging Artist Studio. This is our headquarters here for the Arts District in Santa Fe. As you can see, the artwork behind me here. We just wrapped up First Friday here for December. Fantastic First Friday. Hope you all made it down. If you did not make it down for First Friday here in December, then we have another one, obviously, every first Friday of the year. So January, pop on down to the Arts District on Santa Fe and check it out. Today I have a real world scenario for you. This is going to be a fun show. Everyone sees the videos, right? The HOA people come banging on the door. You see them on the ring cameras or whatever, and they're yelling at the residents for something in the HOA, like they have the wrong flowers out front, or they have holiday lights up and it's past the holidays, or whatever it is. There's always something going on. They're good for laughs, but that's not most HOAs. So we're going to dispel some myths today. And we're going to do that in a real world situation. I had a gentleman call me, say, hey, Ricky, looked up you on Google, read your reviews, seemed like a good guy, would like to learn more about helping my son purchase a home. And I said, oh, okay, fantastic. So first things I do is I meet with my clients for a buyer consultation. It's really important that we sit down and kind of go over what their wants and needs are. We can kind of get an idea of where the market is and kind of make sure that what their expectations are aligned with the market. So that's a big part of that first consultation. So we did that, and they had not been pre-approved yet. So I put them in touch with a couple of lenders that I know of. I also encouraged them to do some shopping around and pick out their lenders. So they did that as well. They got a lender lined up, and he really wanted his son to buy a house. So they really thought they were around 500 and below for a home. So we started looking at homes that were 500 and below, and none of them were really panning out. They were just not good condition, or not the right layout, or not the right area. There was just something about the homes. There's just not a lot of houses available at 500,000 and below here in the Denver metro area. So that ended up not being sort of an option. So then I started talking about maybe we get into a condo. He was like, no, I don't want a condo. I don't want any HOA. And so he's very HOA adverse. So we tried another tactic. We tried to look for some townhouses that didn't have HOAs. But the challenge with that is they have a party wall agreement. So the party wall agreement says it's a document that you sign with your deed that says when there's any maintenance involved with the common areas, that you're going to pitch in your equal fair share to take care of those items. So we looked at some townhouses that were like that, and unfortunately those were 500 below as well. And the townhouses that we were looking at were fairly older, a little bit run down, and hadn't been kept up. There's no HOA, right? So the exterior maintenance don't get kept up quite as well over time. Sometimes the roofs, it's all independent on each development, but the ones that we were seeing at the time just didn't meet their expectations. So then I asked him, I said, what's going on with the HOAs? Why is this kind of an aversion to you? And he was explaining that about everything that you see online, right? The people banging on the door and talking about the holiday lights and all that other stuff. And I was like, okay, most HOAs are not like that. And in fact, some HOAs, when they're well run, can save you money. And I started explaining to him, when you own a house, he owned a house. So I said, okay, you own your house here. When the siding goes bad, you have to replace the siding. That's very expensive. The roof, same thing. Every little thing, right? The eaves, the rain gutters, the landscaping, the water bill, the trash, snow removal, all that stuff has to be taken care of as a homeowner. I said, so the HOA, they cover all that. I said, but that's not even the biggest benefit. The biggest benefit is the fact that the insurance policy. So here's the difference in the insurance policy. When you have a house, you cover the whole house, the whole property, right? When you have insurance for your home. With a condo, you only really insure your four walls. It's called an HO6 policy. It's called a studs-in policy a lot of times. So that covers everything within your unit and your personal belongings. And that policy is cheap, like $75 a month. For the whole year, it's like $600 or $700 or $800. And here's the deal. A lot of people don't know this. you can talk to your insurance company, and when you're getting your HO6 policy, say, hey, I live in a condo, and I want to make sure that if there's a special assessment, I want that special rider on my policy that you will cover, minus my deductible, you'll cover the special assessment. So if you're in a condominium and you have a policy for insurance, check your HO6 policy. If you don't have that rider and you're afraid that your complex might have a special assessment coming up, or they may have one in the future, get that rider on your policy if you can. Okay, so check that out. It'll cover you if they have a special assessment. Let's say you have elevators, and the elevators, they're super expensive. Let's say the elevator goes down, and they're like, okay, everybody, we need everyone to pitch in $5,000 to fix the elevators. And you're like, $5,000? I don't have $5,000 laying around. Well, if you had that rider in your policy, you could reach out to your insurance company. Your deductible is probably $500 or $1,000. You pay your $500 or $1,000, and they cover the other rest of that bill. So check for that rider on your HO6 policy. That's just a little pro tip right there. But my point is, the policy on your house could be like, say, $2,000. The policy on a condo, a similar size condo, could maybe only be $75 or $80 a month. So instead of being $200 or $300 a month, or $250 a month, it's only $70 or $80 a month. So that's one big savings. So if you look at your HOA fee and you see that first $100 or $150 of the HOA fee, well, that's insurance that you'd be paying anyways on a house. Okay, so take that off of there. Then start looking at the other things that might save you money: landscaping, snow removal, getting a roofer out there, all the other stuff that goes on. Your water bill, a lot of times the HOAs that cover the water, sewer, trash removals, things like that. Those are all covered in that HOA policy. If you own a home or you own a townhouse that doesn't have an HOA, a lot of those things you're paying for yourself. You may not be paying a payment every month, but when something breaks or something goes wrong, you have to fix it, or you have to maintain it, right? So HOAs are not all that evil, okay? They're not all out there banging on your door. And here's the other thing, guys. The HOA, the board itself within the HOA complex, they're volunteers, okay? They are residents just like you. They own a condo within that complex just like you do. They're volunteering their time to meet on those monthly meetings and kind of talk about what's going on with the complex and what maintenance needs are coming up and things like that. So be kind to your HOA people. I think they'll be kind to you if you're kind to them. I think the crazy ones you see on TikTok and all those videos, they're fun for laughs, but I don't think that's the majority of them. I don't, full disclosure, I don't live in an HOA right now, but I have lived in HOAs, and I've lived in some that were very lackadaisical, where I was like, gosh, I wish they would keep this place up a little better. And then I've been in some where they were very, very strict. And I was like, gosh, that guy's really a jerk. And so I've been in both. And they're volunteers. That's just my main thing, is they're volunteers. So treat them with some respect. And I think if you give them a little bit, a little bit of honey, it gets just, sweeter type of thing. And the other thing I want to point out is sometimes it might be the HOA management company, the companies that the HOAs hire to help them with the business side of things. And I think there's another way to manage that part of it as well, and that is somebody on the HOA board. And if you're on the HOA board and you're happy with it, great. If you're not on the HOA board and you're not real happy with your HOA, join the board, get involved. Get on the board, find out what's going on. And if you're not happy with the management company, there's a bunch of management companies out there. So shop around and find another management company that you could be happier with. And then what you really need to do is trust and verify, right? Trust and verify, just like in business. So have somebody on your board be a manager of the property management company. Verify all the receipts, all the invoices. If they said they had someone come out and do preventative maintenance on the elevator, have somebody meet the elevator tech there and make sure that work gets done, or at least go back and verify, make sure that work got done. And so I think that part of it is the HOA boards, they get busy or maybe a little bit lazy, and they're like, okay, we've got our own lives going on, we're volunteering, we're doing our meeting, and we have this HOA company, and they think the management company is doing a great job, and they just don't mess with it too much until things get out of control. But I think if you had an HOA board and you had somebody managing that management company, verifying invoices, making sure you're not overcharging the residents for frivolous penalties and things like that. If you manage your management company, you'll be a lot better off. And if you're not happy with their management company, then change the management company. But those management companies can also sometimes save you money. So the HOAs can save you money from you to being a homeowner, right? If you're a homeowner, you're on the hook for all these charges, where an HOA, they can sometimes have some buying power, right? They have one maintenance crew that goes around and manages all their properties. So when the snow removal has to happen, they can have one company go and hit 5 places, and they get that done cheaper than if you're an HOA board and you hire a company that just come just to your complex. So there's some strength in numbers there that can save you some money. So that's why a management company might make some sense, but you do have to manage them, okay? You can't just say, okay, here's all of our stuff and take over our HOA, and then all your residents, they don't look at it as upset at the HOA board or upset at the management company. They just say they're upset at the HOA. So, and they should be, because the HOA is not managing the management company. So don't just hand over your HOA to a management company and say, hands off, I'm done. Trust and verify. Hand it over to them, but make sure that they're not overcharging your residents. Make sure that, bills are getting paid, things of that nature. And so that's how they can save you some money. So the insurance is one part of it, right? They have a master insurance policy that covers all the exterior, usually covers the roof. If you guys have a swimming pool or you have landscaping or whatever you have in that particular complex, that master insurance policy covers all that. And you only have to have your HO6 policy. So your 4 walls within your unit and then your personal belongings. And that's a lot cheaper than that full policy. So that's part of your insurance policy. Then that strength in numbers, not only between strength in numbers from being on a house where you're on the hook for all those expenses yourself, like water, sewer, trash, snow removal, new roof, new gutters, siding, all that stuff. But then also strengthen numbers when you hire a management company, that they may be able to get things cheaper for you through the management company than you can do it as an individual HOA. So if you're an individual, you're buying a unit, and you're like, I don't want to pay an HOA because I don't want to pay those fees, just know a lot of those fees are things that you have to pay for on a house anyways. You may not be paying it monthly, but you're paying the fees anyways. When the roof, breaks down, starts leaking, when the gutters, fall off, or, it needs paint outside, or your garage burns up, or whatever it is, all that maintenance items, you're on the hook for anyways when you own the house. So when you're in the HOA community and you're paying that HOA fee, that's taking off some of those sort of burdens from you. And then if you're an HOA board, make sure that you're managing your HOA company or your management company, okay? Make sure somebody on the board is in charge of following up with the management company and making sure and auditing them and making sure you're not getting overcharged for things. Make sure that they're not harassing your residents, because that is going to look bad on the HOA, and the residents as a whole are not going to look at it as, oh, the management company is doing this. They're just going to look at it as the HOA, and all the volunteers on the HOA board end up being kind of the villains, when maybe they don't necessarily have to be. Because I don't think that most HOA presidents or vice presidents or whoever you see on those videos, I don't think most of them, not from my experience, and I've lived in a lot of HOAs, they're not usually like that. I did have one, I'll tell you one story though. I lived in Boston, and we had a condo. We were on the 5th floor. There was no elevator, and I was doing some cabinetry. My father was a cabinet maker, and I was up there doing some woodwork, and I had this frame I wanted to do, and I had to cut 2 parts of it, and I couldn't do it in the unit. It was like 350 square feet. It's a tiny unit in the middle of the downtown Boston area. So I went downstairs into the parking lot, and I had a little electric saw down there, like a little battery operated saw, and I was cutting, and the guy that runs the HOA came over to me, and he starts yelling at me, ranting and raving. It's like 2 o'clock on a Wednesday or something like that. And I took down a broom and a dustpan. I knew how he was. So I took down a broom and a dustpan and my little saw, and I was down there cutting the wood, and he comes down and starts yelling. He's like, look, it's not like you caught me and I'm telling you I'm going to clean up. I fully intended. I got my broom right there, my dustpan right there. By the way, 20 feet over, there's a trash can. The rats are crawling out of it. In the morning when you go put your trash, or late at night you put your trash, the rats are jumping out of everything else. Never mind that, right? That's just part of Boston. That's part of city living. I love Boston, by the way. I love living there. It's a great city. But that's part of it, right? You live in the city. There's rats all over the trash and stuff. So he's over there yelling, a little bit of sawdust shavings on the ground. Yeah, we have all these other issues with the trash. So it's kind of a hilarious thing. But anyway, back to my story. I told the guy, I was like, I'm going to clean up. And he's like, all right. So he let me finish the job. But that's not, but he's looking after all the other residents, right? He's making sure that someone's not there making a bunch of noise in the middle of the parking lot, even though it was the middle of the day. So that's what he was there. So he was kind of a tough guy, sort of HOA. But I get it. I understand. And I respect the guy, but I also said he's a jerk. So, you're going to have some HOAs out there a little bit tougher, but I'll tell you, on the other side, when they're lackadaisical and they're not taking care of stuff, that's awful as well. I lived in Miami. I lived in a high-rise, and I had to terminate my lease because they were so bad. I mean, they had a couple of different swimming pools in this particular place, and the elevators were always broken, and the pool was always out of commission, or the hot tub was out of commission. Everything was always broken. Sometimes, not sometimes, a lot of times the gym was closed up. So I was just like, oh my gosh, I wish I had a little more strength in my HOA. So just know there's some that are lackadaisical, they're not fun. There's some that are really strict, they cannot be fun as well. But work with them the best you can, and they're not all evil. And that HOA fee, if you owned a home, you would pay a lot of that anyways, especially if it's a high-rise. If you're living in a high-rise, the insurance is a lot more expensive, and they usually have like annual window washing, so they got to get somebody up there with those pulleys and all that stuff, and that's really expensive. And then the insurance is also really high for those high rises. So when you're paying your HOA fees, just know a lot of those things, if you owned a house and you're like, well, I don't like to pay these HOA fees, you'd be paying your water, you'd be paying your sewer, you'd be paying your trash, you'd either be out there taking care of the landscaping yourself, or you'd be paying for a landscaper, you'd be all those sort of things. So if you're a homeowner, you're going to be taking care of that stuff one way or the other, and so the HOA covers that stuff. And there could be strength in numbers. If you have some landscaping, they might be able to get the landscaping done cheaper. If you had a house with a 10,000 square foot lot or whatever, and you're paying a landscaper to go out there every 2 weeks or whatever to take care of it, and then you're paying that water bill. I remember when I used to live on 29th and Julian, in the summertime, our water bill would spike way up, like triple in the summertime when we were trying to keep the grass and all that stuff. Now my house that we have down here in the Arts District, it's xeriscaped, much better, but and less maintenance too. But anyways, just want to give you guys a heads up today about HOAs. They're not all bad, and work with them. They're volunteers. If you're not happy with what's going on with the HOA, join the board and get involved. You can really make a difference in your community. And then just make sure that you're talking to your HOA board, and make sure somebody is managing that management company. All right, that's going to wrap up today's podcast. Thank you very much. This is Ricky Schoonover with 8Z Real Estate. You've been listening to the Denver Homes Market Report. We come out, it's supposed to be the first Thursday of every month. This last few holidays, looks like we're coming out the second Thursday of each month. But if you didn't come out the first Friday last week, please come out the first Friday in January. And other than that, have a great month. And I will see you guys in 2025. Hello and welcome to the Denver Homes Market Report. This is Ricky Schoonover, your host of the show and local realtor here in the Denver metro area. And here on this podcast, the Denver Homes Market Report, we talk about everything in and around real estate here in the Mile High City. We're past Halloween. Hope everyone had a good time with the Halloween, the little trick-or-treaters. We had a pretty good turnout. It was nice. We got rid of a lot of the candy, maybe not all of it. A little bit left for us to take over. But and then the elections are done. So on the note, on the elections, about half the country, maybe a little more than half the country, or at least a little over half of the voters are satisfied and happy with the changes that are likely coming our way. And then there's a little bit less than 50% that maybe are not so excited about the changes that are headed our way. But let's just take a pause there for a minute. We were founded in 1776, right? And we're coming up on 2025. So we've got 249 years, almost 250 years as a union, and we've survived a lot of trials and tribulations over the years, and I'm sure there are lots other trials and tribulations coming to our future. So no matter where you are on that spectrum, we're a big tent, and we can help everybody as far as buying homes and selling homes and that kind of thing. And I think that we just have to kind of trust the system and trust that democracy works, and sort of understanding. I'm 54 this year. I just turned 54. And over the years, what I've seen is the country will kind of sway one way or the other, right? We'll start heading towards a little bit towards the left, and we'll get to a certain point, and then we'll swing back and we'll go back towards the right. And then, we'll go in that direction for a little while. And then at some point it swings back. So I do think that is the balance of powers. And I do trust the system and hope that all that holds up. And we'll see how that goes. So let's get into some real estate matters. I mean, after all, the Denver Homes Market Report is about real estate. So let's get into some real estate. And, the feds are meeting right now. They met yesterday. They're meeting now. And I think within the next couple hours, they're probably going to announce what they're going to do as far as rate cuts go. They cut the rates by 50 basis points back in September. There were some of the economists out there that thinking that was a little bit too much, but I don't agree with that. I think that the 50% or the 50 basis points was the right move to do. And we'll see how they go today. I think the market has already sort of baked in a 25 basis points, and I'm pretty confident that's what's going to happen today. If they do by chance, I mean, we did have a jobs report that was a really, really lackluster jobs report, and they had adjusted down a couple of jobs reports from the previous sessions. So they could do a 50 basis points cut, but I don't see that. If they do, the rates will probably affect it a little bit. But if they do the 25 like everybody's expecting, then I wouldn't expect much change in the market as far as mortgage rates go. And on that note, if you are concerned about mortgage rates, or you're looking at mortgage rates and you're trying to figure out like, why is it that the Fed's cut the basis points, but my mortgage rates, or the mortgage rates I'm shopping for, don't go down? Well, that's because the mortgage rates, the 30-year fixed mortgage rate, is mostly tied to the 10-year Treasury bond. So if you're trying to get some tea leaves, read the tea leaves and try to see where the rates are going, look at the bond market. The bonds yield spread is pretty high right now. It's above 2%. It's almost 3%. I think above 4%, 4.2, almost 4.3. So that is what's keeping the rates up. Even though we had that 50 basis points back in September, the yield spread, the bond market yield spread had gone up because it was down at like 3.8, 3.9, and it went up, like I said, to the 4.2. So that's kind of where we're at. Now, if we do get a 50 basis points cut, then right now the rates are about 6.75 to 7. That's kind of where they've been hovering, is 6.75 to 7. You can get that down, and we'll talk about that in a second, but that's where they are organically. And then if we do get a 50 basis points, I would imagine that's going to affect the mortgage rates a little bit. The 25 basis points, I don't think it's going to change. I think we're still going to be at that 6.75 to 7%. But if we do by chance get a 50 basis point cut today, I would think interest rates may drop down a little bit and go to about maybe 6.5 to 7.75 is kind of my guesstimate. But if you're trying to keep an eye on like where the 30-year fixed is, the 10-year Treasury bond, that's where you want to look at. Look at that yield spread, and that'll kind of tell you where we're at there. All right, so let's go ahead and go on to our next topic here. So I want to share with you all, Feds are cutting the rates by like I said, by the 25 basis points. We're going to stick in there at that 6.75 to 7%. I don't think that changes too much. Now let's talk about a little bit about inventory and absorption rates. I was in a meeting yesterday with our company, and our president was there, and he was talking about the absorption rate and how much we have homes on the market. And right now in Denver area, we've got about 3 months of inventory. And so when we talk about absorption rate and inventory, and when we say 3 months, what we're saying there is if there were no other homes to hit the market, and we kept going at the same rate that we're going as far as selling homes, however many we're selling each week, then it would take us, or months, it would take us 3 months to deplete the entire inventory where there were no more homes to sell, if nothing else came for sale as we were selling homes. And then the absorption rate, obviously, that's the rate at which the homes are being purchased. So those are the correlations as far as inventory and absorption rate. And right now, with the interest rates being a little higher, you might say, well, this is a horrible time to buy, right? You don't want to buy a home when the interest rates are 6.75, especially if we think they're going to go lower in the future. So there's a couple of things to think about. I just had this conversation, actually. We were out doing a little volunteer work out here in Westwood. There's a skate park out there, and basketball, half-court basketball court there, a little park for the kids. And there's a bunch of planter boxes, and we had planted some plants there back in the spring, and we went back over there to see how the plants were doing. We put a bunch of mulch around for the winter and that kind of thing. So it was a lot of fun. We were over there, and the Department of Parks and Recs, her name's Emily, she was there, and she was asking me, is it a good time to buy? She's not buying right now. She bought a couple years ago. But she was asking me if it's a good time to buy. And I was telling her, I was like, well, here's the thing. Interest rates are higher. So if you just look at interest rates, no, it's probably not a good time to buy because interest rates are high. But you have to look at the whole picture. Yeah, yes, the interest rates are high. So what does that do? That's going to keep out some buyers, whether it's financially or just mentally. They're not going to be able to buy or not going to be motivated to buy at that 6.75, 7% range. And there's a lot of buyers out there on that sideline that are waiting for the rates to come down. And that's perfectly fine. Everyone's going to have their own comfort levels, and you buy in the market when it's right for you. That's what I always say. Don't time the market. Buy it when it's right for you. So if you're the one that looking at the interest rates and being like, well, I don't want to buy at 6.75, so I'm just going to wait till they come down. That's fine and good. However, when the rates do start coming down, and they have started coming down, right? We were at 8% last year. We went down to 7, then we went down into the low 6s, even high 5s, and now we're back up into that mid to 7% range. So they've been fluctuating. So they have been moving overall. But as the rates come down, what happens, right? So I brought up a real world situation. I was just out last weekend. It was my birthday weekend, actually, but I had clients that were out of town. They were coming in. And we'd already been doing videos before they got here. So this is a house hunting trip for them. But leading up to that, like 4 or 6 weeks before that, I was going out and going out to the neighborhood, finding out which homes were their favorite homes. And then I would go do a video. I just go on Instagram and I would just kind of give them a little video tour. And I would be able to point out some things that maybe don't show up on a listing description, or maybe you can't tell by the photos. Things like, how close is the school? How far away is the school? Or, how far away from a busy street? What impact does that busy street have? Do I hear it? Do I not hear it? Do I see the cars? Do I not see the cars? How big is the yard in relation to like where are the other houses? What kind of windows are on the other house that are kind of looking into the yard? If it's just a solid wall, then, your yard is pretty private. If there's a bunch of big windows or a big slider door right there or something, then obviously it's a lot more communal. So finding out those sort of details and sharing them with my clients, so that way they could get a better understanding of the homes that they were looking at online and if they matched what they were looking for in their home. So we did that for, like I said, the last 4 to 6 weeks. And then when they came in, we already had a good idea what they were looking for. We had 6 houses lined up. We went and looked at all 6. Or 7, and then the next day we got back up in the morning on Saturday and went back out and looked at their favorites again, just to kind of make sure they were in the right position there, and then we put in our offer. And the particular home that we put the offer in on, it had been for sale since the spring. So way back in the spring, they did pull it off the market and put it back on at one point. But ever since the spring, off and on, it's been on the market. And they started out pretty high. They started out $1,175,000, if I remember right. So $1,175,000, and they kind of vacillated those prices back and forth, all the way up until October. They finally got to October, and they brought that price down to $1.1 million. So this home was almost 1.2, went all the way back down to 1.1. And we went in with an offer at $1 million flat. So we're just like, here's $1 million flat. We'll put your offer in. And the sellers didn't accept that offer, but they came back with a counter offer. And then we countered offer again, and we came back with our price. So we got a really good deal on this particular home. And that home was the very first home I had looked at for these clients 6 or 8 weeks ago. So the very first home I looked at was the one they purchased almost 2 months ago, about 6 weeks ago, previous. So what I'm telling you is they've had a lot of time to look at other homes, right? We've been doing a lot of investigating. We've been doing a lot of research. We've been looking at a lot of other homes. And lo and behold, the very first home that I went and did a video at was the home that they put their offer in, got the offer accepted, and home inspection is tomorrow. So all is good there. But what my point is in all that story is that you have time in some cases. Now, I always say you have time, but what happens as a buyer always asks me, like, how soon do I have to get my offer in? I said, you have all the time in the world until another buyer or multiple buyers jump into the radar. Once there's other buyers on the radar, even if they're just looking at the home, maybe they've already seen it and they're coming back for a second visit, they don't even have to put in the offer yet. But as long as that seller thinks that there's more prospects out there, your offer this became much weaker, right? Much weaker, because they're going to kind of drag that offer and slow that offer down a little bit with, giving you more time to reply back to a counter offer. Maybe they don't counter you right away and they wait and say, oh, you know what? My client's out of town. I can't get a hold of them till Monday. And you wrote the offer on Saturday. So then you're waiting till Monday. You have no choice, right? There's nothing you could do. I mean, you could go off to look at other homes, but if this is the home you've chosen to put your offer in on and you've looked at everything else, then you're kind of beholden to that seller. The seller can just kind of slow walk you and tell you, you know what? Yeah, the offer's going to expire, but you can always revive it on Monday if everyone still wants to purchase the home. Really what that seller might be doing is just letting these other showings come in and following up with those brokers right away and saying, hey, is your client interested? Is your client interested? Because we have an offer on the table. We have to answer it back at this certain time. And that kind of builds that FOMO, right? That you don't want to miss out. So you want to put this offer in right away. Well, if the home's been on the market for a long time and no one's looking at it, you're going to get a good deal on that home. If there's a lot of people looking at it, or as you're kind of doing your research and thinking you want to buy that home, but you're like not really sure about it, maybe you'll put the offer in next week, whatever that case is. If another buyer comes along, the game changes, right? The game absolutely changes, and you're probably not going to get as good of a deal as you could have on that house if you would have just jumped on it right away. So that's part of the advantage of right now, it being a good time to buy, is you have opportunities like that. That is a case in point. Interest rates are a little higher. There's less buyers out there, more time on the market. Sellers are more motivated in some cases. And if it's been on the market for a while, or if they haven't had a price cut recently, if they cut the price yesterday, and they went from 1,175,000 down to 1.1, and they did that yesterday, and then you tried to come in the next day with $1 million offer, chances are they wouldn't even entertain that. But in our case, they had done that price cut back on October 10th, and we came in towards the end of the month here. So they'd already seen that the market had already seen that price change, and they weren't responding. The other buyers out there just had not put in another offer. Now the market's moving. There was another one just 6 doors down. That one got a contract that same weekend. There was another one 1 block over or 2 blocks over. That one got a contract the first weekend it went out. So houses were selling, but this particular home just hadn't resonated with the right buyers yet. And my buyers happened to be the right buyers. That was fantastic. So they got a good deal, I hope, and we'll find out tomorrow with the home inspection and moving forward from there. So the prices have leveled off, in some places. And I case in point again, I've got another real world situation. I've got a listing over there overlooking Sloan's Lake, overlooking the Denver skyline. It's on the edge of Edgewater and Lakewood there. It's got a rooftop deck up on this townhouse. You look to the west out there, you get really nice mountain views. I'm the other way around, actually. But you look out west, you got mountain views. You look out east, and you have Sloan's Lake and Denver skyline. It's a beautiful townhouse. It's about 7 years old, so all the systems in there are fairly new. It's got engineered hardwood floors, which are in beautiful condition, just like they were installed recently. You've got a nice modern kitchen, stainless steel appliances, gas range, and it's got 2 bedrooms and a dedicated office, and it also has 4 bathrooms. So 4 bathrooms, 2 bedrooms, a dedicated office. It's got a 1-car garage, but that 1-car garage also has an extra 6 or 8 feet deep by about 15 feet wide that you could put a motorcycle if you had a motorcycle, or a snowmobile, or if you want to do a little workshop over there, or just storage, whatever you want to do. But there's some extra room in that garage. You come in, you've got your entry-level office, you go upstairs, you got your living space, you got a dining room, guest bathroom, the kitchen, and a kitchen island. And that island can move. It's a cabinet, but we're going to leave it there if the buyer wants it. And then the living room. And then you go upstairs, you got the primary bedroom, which looks out to the west. You've got a walk-in closet, dual sinks on the bathroom there, a stand-up shower, tiles all the way up. And then you go into the secondary bedroom. Again, it's got a closet there. It's got its own bathroom. And then you go upstairs, you got that rooftop deck. So it's a really, really nice townhouse. Great location. Right there by the Edgewater Marketplace. So it's very close to that. The Target shopping center where they have the King Soopers and the Target and a bunch of other little shops in there. It's really close to that there. And that one's listed at $650,000. And we've been struggling to find the right buyer for that particular property. We have. Actually, I have getting some feedback that they couldn't visualize the living room. So I went back over there and we put in a little couch, put a little table, and dressed up just a little bit, just so when you walk in, you can visualize, oh, okay, that's where I put some artwork up on the wall. So you're like, okay, that's where the TV can go. Here's where the couch goes. Here's where the little table goes. So it gives you some visualization on this particular townhouse. And we'll see if that helps this weekend. We got a couple showings lined up. But if you're interested in this townhouse, how I'm describing it, go to my website, www.denverhomesmarket.com, and you'll be able to find it there. Go to that little hamburger up in the upper left corner and click that. It says featured listings. Hit that, and 1927 Eaton Street. That one will pop up. $650,000. Fantastic townhouse. Great deal. Great location. Move-in ready. It's got fresh paint. It's got fresh floors, fresh carpet. You wouldn't have to do anything to it. You can move right in and make it your own, however you like. After you've moved in, there's nothing immediate that I know of that would have to be done to that particular property. So we've got properties moving. I'm representing buyers on one particular property up in Central Park, representing seller over here in Sloan's Lake area. So those are the 2 properties I have to talk to you about today. Not a whole lot else going on. I'm a little late getting my podcast out. Today is Thursday. I usually put the podcast out the first Thursday of the month, which would be today. But with the elections just the other day and then the Fed meeting, I wanted to wait. And then even yesterday I recorded this and I was like, I'm going to wait and just see what the Fed say. And I feel pretty confident, even though the Feds haven't made the announcement yet. They're in the meeting right now. I feel pretty confident they're going to do the 25 basis points, and that's not really going to change the interest rates short term right now. And if they do a 50 basis points, I would then anticipate in the next, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I bet you it kind of works into the system. That would be a little more than what we're expected. And I bet you the rates would come down to about 6.5. So right now, 6.75, 7%, a little bit elevated, but if you're just waiting for the rates to drop, that might be a little short-sighted, because these other opportunities are, these other aspects of purchasing a home, whether it be getting the seller to fix items or getting a better deal on the price, the purchase price, things like that, you're probably not going to have those sort of opportunities. I was talking on another podcast where I had a couple of deals over the summertime, and the interest rates were even higher. And we had sellers out there that were willing to put on new roofs, put in insulation, buy a new AC system, buy a new furnace, all these different things that sellers were willing to do, because they had been waiting for those buyers for 60 days, 70 days, 90 days, or whatever it was. And they were going to do whatever it took to keep that buyer on the hook and keep that buyer interested in buying their home. So don't just look at the interest rates. Look at the overall picture. There's a bunch of levers in there as far as real estate goes. You might get a better deal. What's the big difference if you get a quarter of a point interest rate difference if you can save $100,000 or almost $100,000 off the list price of the home? That little 0.25% interest rate, yeah, it's a good thing. But the reality is most people stay in their home about 5 to 7 years. And at one point or another, you're going to refinance anyways. So you're not going to have that rate forever. And so you might be better off now getting a good deal on your home. And then when the rates come down, and get this, if you go through Collective Mortgage, our affiliate, they'll do the refi for free. So for the next 3 years, once you buy your home, if the rates come down, they're going to do the refi. They're not going to charge you any of the lender fees. There's still some nominal fees involved with the title and everything, but the bigger part of that, the lender fees, they aren't even going to charge you. They're going to do it for free. So you buy now at the 6.75, 7% range, and then you get a great deal on your home. You were able to do some research on it. You had some time to look at it, really make sure it was the right place for you. And then you're 2 years down the line, you're not going to have remorse, because you could just refi it for a very low cost and get you into that newer, lower rate if the rates do come down in the next 2 or 3 years. All right, that's going to wrap up today's podcast. That's 20 minutes. I usually do 15 to 20, so I'll keep this to 20 minutes. This is Ricky Schoonover with 8Z Real Estate. You've been listening to the Denver Homes Market Report, Denver's monthly real estate podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you have any questions at all, whether they're real estate related or maybe you need a contractor of some sort, I have all kinds of different people in my toolbox. So if you need anything, maybe the HVAC system's not working right, the heater needs to be serviced, maybe you might have a little crack in that manifold in your heater, something like that's going on, give me a call. I can help you out with that stuff too. But if you have any real estate related questions, looking to buy your home, looking to sell your home, want to know what your home might be worth, want to know what the algorithm looks like for you as far as buying a home, give me a call. 720-688-5110. And if you haven't, hit that subscribe button. If you're on my YouTube channel, Denver Homes Market, I think that subscribe button is right there. It might be right there. But wherever it is, hit that subscribe button so you get the next episode. I'll be out on the first Thursday of next month. Hopefully, I'll be on time. This time it'll be just a couple of days late. But have a great month, and we'll catch up with you next